Today we're going to tell you the truth about hunting rifle accuracy. So buckle up. Welcome to the LocaCarnivore. It's a wonderful day. We're kind of about in the middle of general rifle season, and we're outside shooting at the sprawling LocaCarnivore headquarters complex. So you might hear a little bit of background noise here and there. Trust me, that's strictly added to throw the NSA off the trail. Wink, wink. Today we're talking about hunting rifle accuracy. Not precision rifle, not competition, not target rifle, not all this other esoteric stuff, not, sniping, whatever it might be. Hunting rifle accuracy. How much is enough? How far down that rabbit hole do you have to go? Now let's get one thing straight right off the bat. There's no such thing as too much accuracy. I've never heard anybody complain that their rifle was too accurate. But today we're going to deal with the realities of what you really need in a hunting rifle. And to get started, we have to dig down a little bit of technical stuff. Forgive me, it's going to be a little basic for those people that know a lot about the subject. But for those viewers out there that might be new to this, you do need to understand a few things. What do we mean when we say accuracy when it comes to a rifle? Accuracy is generally measured, if you will, or described as MOA, which is minute of an angle. You have a circle which is 360 degrees, and you have each degree is then divided into minutes and seconds, i.e. 60 minutes in a degree, etc. So what 1 minute of angle is, it describes a deviation at the target of 1 inch, roughly, a little over 1 inch at 100 yards. Now that little smidge over is nothing you need to worry about until you get out past basically 1,000 yards or so. It's just irrelevant. It's non-additive, so don't worry about it. Every shot that leaves a rifle is a unique event. And if you can imagine that the bullets don't go in an exact perfect straight line out of the bore, so they have a little angle off one way or the other. And when they reach the target, we're looking at the group size with a 3 or 5 shot group, whatever you want to shoot. And we measure that across, so the maximum width at 100 yards. So let's say we shoot a group and we measure it, and hole to hole maximum is say 2 inches. Well, at 100 yards, that's 2 MOA. And let's say it was 1 inch, that would be 1 MOA. And then that is linear out in distance. So if you go to 200 yards, you multiply that by 2, 300 yards, you multiply that by 3, 4, etc. So at 200 yards, 1 MOA is 2 inches on the target, a 2-inch group. At 300 yards, that's 3 inches, etc., etc. So that gives you an idea of what MOA is. Envision that cone as the vital zone on a game animal, and we have to fit those bullets within that vital zone. So let's take a look at a few different types of animals, commonly hunted animals, and see what their vital zone diameter is. So if you go with something small, like a relatively small, say a pronghorn antelope, the vital zone on that animal is roughly about 6 inches, and what we're talking about for vital zone is from the spine down to the heart, and then from the frontal lungs, and then back to the rear of the lungs or mid-lung, somewhere in there. So if you make a mark in the center of that little spot, those coordinates, then draw a circle around that, equidistant, connecting all the dots, if you will, that'll give you your vital zone or your kill zone, depending your kill box in military terms. Hopefully you're enjoying the video. Don't forget to give us a big thumbs up, like the video. Let's get you subscribed so you're on the LocaCarnivore team, and don't forget to ring that bell so you'll get notified of every video that we do. So on an animal the size of, say, a pronghorn antelope or an eastern white-tailed deer, like a doe, that circle is roughly 6 inches to maybe 7 inches. So if we have a 1 MOA rifle and we're shooting out to, say, 700 yards, that would be a 7-inch diameter circle that the bullets would be striking in, which would be within the vital zone of that animal, that size animal. Now let's ramp it up a little bit. Let's talk about something like a mature white-tailed buck or a mule deer or something like that. You're roughly about 7, let's call it 8 inches in diameter. So again, if we had a 1 inch 1 MOA rifle and we were shooting out at this animal at, say, 800 yards, our bullets would fall within that 8-inch circle at 800 yards. So that'd be sort of the maximum accuracy range, roughly, for that size animal. Now let's talk about elk or moose, things of that size. Really, their vital zone is about 10 inches in diameter. So on a 1 inch MOA with a one MOA gun, if you're shooting all the way out to 10,000 yards, right? So if you have a 1 MOA gun and you have that animal out at 1,000 yards, that's a 10-inch circle, 10-inch group that gun could theoretically shoot. So that would be the maximum effective range to be able to place that round, assuming all things are equal, and nothing's ever equal, especially in the hunting field. But that would be at 1,000 yards, would hit that vital zone on that elk. So that gives you an idea of what that MOA is going to do. A couple ways you can help support the channel. We've got a Patreon, of course, links down in the description. Appreciate your help on that. Go over to our website, LocaCarnivore.com, check into our store, get some LocaCarnivore merchandise, help us out. So let's look at this from a practical standpoint. Most hunters get their game, shoot their animals at 200 yards or less, and usually even within 100 yards. So that begs the question, well, how much MOA do you need, how tight a group do you need to be successful in hitting the kill zone, hitting the vital zone on an animal at that range? Well, if you look at back in the day, rifles, hunting rifles, bolt-action rifles were considered accurate if they shot 4 MOA or thereabouts. That was considered an accurate rifle back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, all the way even into the 80s and 90s, before we got onto this big bandwagon of making rifles ever more accurate out of the factory instead of going to a custom rifle. Even custom rifles of the day were considered quite accurate if they shot 2 MOA. But is that enough? Well, let's look at it. If you have a 2 MOA rifle, say like this Savage here that I'm holding, it typically shoots with factory ammunition about 1.5 to 2 MOA. Pretty typical with me behind the trigger. Now your mileage may vary depending on how good you shoot, but with me behind the trigger, it shoots about 1.5 to 2 MOA. So let's take that 2 MOA and ramp that out. So let's say we're shooting at a whitetail deer with a 6-inch vital zone and a 2 MOA rifle. Well, that 6-inch circle happens or coincides at 300 yards. And remember, we said that we shoot most of our animals at 200 yards or less. In fact, the longest I've ever had to shoot at an animal and connected was about 320 yards on a pronghorn antelope once. So, and that was with just basic generic ammunition, just, you know, blue box federal ammo, nothing special at all, and it's still hooked up. So you don't need super sophisticated equipment here to do this job. And so on that size animal, say a whitetail or a pronghorn, a 2 MOA rifle is adequate to 300 yards, which is more than enough accuracy to get the job done. Let's extend that out on an elk. We could go on a 2 MOA rifle, we could go to 500 yards to get into that 10-inch vital zone on an elk or a moose or something like that size. So that would be, again, very adequate. A 2 MOA rifle to 500 yards on an elk is more than enough for most people. And we're not going to get into the discussion about should you be taking pot shots at animals beyond 500 yards. That's a discussion for a different day. I have my opinions on that. I'm sure you do. By the way, let's hear from you on what you think you need for an accurate hunting rifle, what you think a practical range is for shooting at animals. Go down in the comments there and let us know. So let's take this out a little further. Let's say we're using a lever action rifle, and those are not renowned for being, you know, pinpoint accurate tack driving guns. If you have a tack driving lever action, don't give it up. But most of those will shoot in about the 4 to 6 MOA range, you know, envelope. That's pretty good. So let's say, but most lever guns are used at maybe 100 yards in heavy cover. So let's talk about 100 yards. On with a 6 MOA lever action rifle at 100 yards, that fits neatly into the vital zone on a whitetail deer at 6 inches, and it's more than enough for a mule deer at 8 inches. And an elk, no problem. You got that big 10-inch pie plate you're shooting at, and so a 6 MOA rifle, it's not going to be a problem at all. That'll do the job for you just fine. Hey, don't forget to share this video. We'd really appreciate it. Bottom line here is, don't get obsessed with maximum accuracy when it comes to hunting guns. You just don't have to go there. You don't need to stay up late at night worrying about, is my gun accurate enough or not accurate enough. Bottom line, if you've got a gun that shoots at least 2 MOA, that gets you out to, like we said, 500 yards on a large animal like an elk and 400 yards or so on a deer. More than enough for most hunting situations. We're not going to worry about, you know, the ethics or whatever of shooting farther. That's a different discussion for a different day. But just remember, if you've got that roughly 2 MOA, 1 to 2 MOA, you're golden. Don't worry about it. That's all the accuracy you really need in a hunting gun. And thank you for spending your valuable time with us here at the LocaCarnivore today. We do appreciate it. And remember, you can usually learn at least one thing from everybody you meet. So pay attention. Thanks for watching.